I greet you, my friend, with a quiet reverence. For anyone who turns inward walks upon sacred ground. Sit with me for a moment, not as student to teacher, but as one human soul listening to another who has wandered long through the caverns of the psyche and returned with symbols instead of certainties. Tonight, I invite you into a question that has followed me like a persistent shadow throughout my life. What part of you emerges when the walls of control finally fall? Many people imagine strength as mastery, as command, as the disciplined narrowing of life into neat, manageable lines. But I have seen something far stranger, far more paradoxical, far more alive. There is a threshold where the ego loosens its rigid grip, where the persona, the mask we wear, becomes too heavy to hold, and where the unconscious begins to whisper its forgotten truths. On the far side of that threshold is a form of strength that does not dominate, but listens, that does not conquer, but understands, that does not cling, but allows. It is the strength of the self. I remember sitting alone in my study one winter night, the snow tapping softly at the window like a dream urging to be heard. My mind was troubled, not by events of the world, but by an inner tension I could not name. It was then that I realized how much of my life had been spent trying to manage my psyche, to guide my emotions like soldiers on a battlefield, to silence the voices within me that did not match the image I wished to present. But the psyche is not a machine to be perfected. It is a living myth, a constellation of forces, a wilderness older than thought, and the more I sought to control it, the more it slipped from my grasp. That night, as the embers of the fire dimmed, I felt something loosen within me, as if a great knot had begun to untangle. It was then that I understood something essential. Real strength begins where our illusion of control ends. Not because chaos is admirable, but because control is often a fragile defense against meeting our true nature. And so I ask you now, gently, what parts of yourself have you exiled in the name of control? What emotions have you locked behind a well-built mask? What dreams have you dismissed because they did not obey the will of your daylight self? Reflect on this, not with judgment, but with curiosity. For every time we try to dominate the psyche, we shrink our own world. We silence the very forces capable of guiding us toward wholeness. You see, my friend, within the unconscious resides a great vitality, an inexhaustible reservoir of intuition, creativity, instinct, and archetypal wisdom. But when the ego attempts to force the psyche into obedience, the unconscious retaliates in dreams, in symptoms, in sudden fears, in unexplained sadness, or in strange coincidences that reveal themselves at the exact moment we resist them most. I have often said that what we resist persists, not as punishment, but as invitation. Let me offer a small story, a symbolic tale from the realm of myth. There was once a fisherman who lived by a dark and restless sea. Each day he cast his net close to the shore, fearful of the deeper waters. The shallow waves obeyed him, his boat remained steady, his life was predictable. But his nets came back empty. He began to grow angry with the sea, accusing it of withholding its gifts. And so he tried to control it. He built stronger nets, set traps, shouted curses into the wind. Still, the sea gave him nothing. One night, exhausted by frustration, he let his boat drift farther than he ever had before. There, in the vast and silent dark, he felt a fear he could not control, but also a freedom he had never known. In that moment, his net filled to the point of breaking, not because he conquered the sea, but because he surrendered to its depth. So it is with the psyche. The treasures you seek, clarity, purpose, resilience, creativity, meaning, lie not in the shallow waters where everything is familiar, predictable, controlled. They lie in the depths, in the places you fear to look, in the feelings you silence, in the memories you bury, in the desires you deny, in the shadows you pretend are not there. Strength is not the refusal of these forces. Strength is the willingness to meet them. I speak to you now, not as a theorist, but as a fellow traveller who has wrestled with his own darkness. I, too, have been afraid of the unknown within myself. I, too, have wanted my life to be orderly and safe. But every meaningful transformation I have lived began with the dissolution of certainty. Control is the armor of the ego. Surrender is the gateway of the self. And so, in this private hour between us, I invite you to accompany me deeper, beyond the edges of your familiar identity, beyond the persona you present to the world, into the living landscape of the unconscious. There we shall explore a truth older than your personality and wiser than your fears. We will speak of the shadow, that hidden companion you carry at your back. We will speak of the archetypes, the ancient patterns that shape your desires and wounds. And we will speak of individuation, the path toward becoming who you truly are, not who you have been conditioned to be. This is not an abstract journey. It is deeply personal. It is the journey every human must eventually face. The journey to the center of the soul. So, breathe with me. Slowly. Allow the surface of your mind to settle like dust in a quiet room. You are ready, even if part of you trembles. Let us continue. Let us descend into the story of your inner life, not with force, but with the quiet strength that emerges when control falls away and honesty begins. As we step together beyond the boundary of control, there is a presence you will inevitably meet: the shadow. Many imagine the shadow as the dark, menacing part of the psyche, a storehouse of all that is shameful or forbidden. But that is only how the ego sees it. In truth, the shadow is simply the part of you that has not yet been lived. It contains not only the impulses you fear, but also the vitality you lack, the creativity you have suppressed, the truths you were never allowed to speak, and the strength you have forgotten to claim. I remember a patient once, a reserved and impeccably polite man whose controlled demeanor impressed everyone around him. He believed himself calm, rational, and unshakably moral. Yet each night he dreamed of wild animals, wolves, bears, dark creatures stalking at the edge of the forest. He came to me troubled, convinced these dreams meant that something primitive and dangerous lurked within him. I told him, "The wolf does not appear to destroy you, but to return you to your own instinctual life." For years he had prided himself on being composed, but in doing so he had exiled the passionate, spontaneous, assertive part of his nature. The wolves were not his enemies. They were his messengers. And so I ask you now, what wolves roam the edges of your dreams? What unlived self watches you from the forest of your inner world? Reflect for a moment. When you try to control everything, what is it you are truly afraid of? Is it chaos? Or is it the magnitude of your own soul? Many fear their depths because they have mistaken the shadow for a monster. But the shadow only becomes monstrous when it has been ignored for too long. Let me offer you another symbolic story. There was once a village built beside a great mountain. Every child was told never to climb it, for the mountain housed a dragon, a creature of fire and smoke. Generations passed, and the villagers lived cautiously, their lives small and predictable. One day, a young woman dared to climb the forbidden slope. She expected a beast with scales and teeth and flames that would devour her. But when she reached the summit, she found instead a vast, shimmering cavern. Inside lived not a dragon, but a wounded creature. Its scales cracked, its fire dimmed to embers. The dragon spoke. "I am not your enemy. I am the guardian of what your people abandoned, their forgotten courage, their unlived dreams." The creature offered her a single glowing ember. When she carried it down the mountain, the village was transformed, for the ember awakened in each person the courage they had lost. You see, my friend, the shadow is like that dragon. It appears terrifying only because your conscious mind has clothed it with fear, but within it lies a fire, the fire of authenticity. Ask yourself, what courage have I abandoned? What dreams have I buried within the mountain of my past? Strength begins not when you conquer the shadow, but when you listen to it. To listen is to relinquish control. To relinquish control is to allow the psyche to breathe. The modern mind worships control as though it were salvation. People plan their days down to the minute, craft images of themselves like sculptures, try to manage every emotion as if feelings were dangerous storms that must never touch the skin. But life does not bloom in the soil of rigidity. It blooms in the fertile chaos where intuition grows. Consider the persona, the mask you wear to meet the world. It is necessary, of course, society demands it. But the mask becomes suffocating when you forget that it is only a mask. Many cling to their persona because they fear the shadow. They think, if I let go of who I pretend to be, what remains? I will tell you what remains. A living being, complex and paradoxical, capable of both gentleness and ferocity, wisdom and foolishness, order and passion. Real strength is born not from choosing one side, but from allowing the whole to exist. Let me share one more story from my early years of inner exploration. There was a period in my life when dreams overwhelmed me. They came like storms, vivid, chaotic, alive with mythic figures. I tried to interpret them systematically, to impose logic where there was none. But the dreams resisted. They grew darker, more insistent. Finally, in exhaustion, I surrendered. I allowed the dreams to speak in their own language, a language of symbols rather than words, of images rather than conclusions. And in doing so, I discovered the self, not as an idea, but as a presence, an inner center of gravity that I had never known. I learned then that the unconscious does not seek to overthrow us. It seeks to complete us. This realization changed my life. You cannot dominate the unconscious any more than you can command the tide. But you can listen. You can dialogue with it. You can learn its rhythms as a sailor learns the sea. Ask yourself now, what symbols return again and again in my dreams? What emotions surface despite my efforts to silence them? What patterns repeat themselves in my life as if seeking recognition? These are the footsteps of the unconscious walking toward you. And when you stop resisting, when you stop trying to control its arrival, you discover something extraordinary. The psyche is not against you. It is for you. It pushes you toward wholeness, even when you cling desperately to the fragments of who you used to be. Individuation, the journey toward becoming your true self, does not begin with accomplishment. It begins with relinquishing the illusion of control. You are not weak when you surrender. You are weak when you hide. Strength is not the firmness of the fist, but the openness of the palm. It is not rigidity, but responsiveness. Not certainty, but presence. When your conscious mind loosens its grip, when your persona fades, when the shadow steps forward into the light of awareness, you do not collapse. You expand. And so I invite you once more. Look inward, not with the eyes of judgment, but with the eyes of compassion. The journey ahead is not about improvement. It is about integration. It is about remembering the forgotten parts of yourself and welcoming them home. Let us continue. Let us go even deeper into the realm where symbols speak and the self begins to reveal its true form. Come with me now a little deeper, into a chamber of the psyche where symbols shimmer like firelight on ancient stone. Here, in this inner hall, we meet not only the shadow, but the archetypes, the primordial patterns, the living forces that shape the myths we embody and the choices we make. Many imagine archetypes as abstract notions, but they are far more intimate than that. They move within us like currents beneath the surface of a lake, guiding, provoking, warning, revealing paths we might otherwise miss. The hero, the mother, the sage, the trickster. These are not characters from distant stories. They are energies within your own psyche that wait to be awakened. Consider the hero, not the warrior who conquers nations, but the inner figure who dares to confront the unknown. Whenever you face a fear you have long avoided, the hero rises in you. Whenever you speak a truth you once silenced, the hero breathes again. Or the sage, the quiet inner wisdom that whispers when your mind is frantic with calculations. You have felt it, perhaps, in those rare moments when clarity descends like snow, soft and undeniable. These figures are not fantasies. They are psychic realities. They are the language through which the unconscious speaks. Let me tell you a symbolic tale to illuminate this realm. Once there was a traveller who wandered through a vast and silent desert. His canteen was nearly empty, and the sun burned his back, but he pressed on, driven by a dream of finding a hidden spring said to lie beyond the shifting dunes. As night fell, he collapsed, overcome by exhaustion. In his delirium, a figure appeared in the flickering moonlight, a cloaked woman with luminous eyes. She said, "You search for water outside yourself, yet everything you seek lies within." She touched the sand before him, and from the barren ground a small pool of water emerged. When he reached to drink, the woman vanished, but the spring remained. You see, The desert was his conscious life. Dry, controlled, limited. The cloaked woman was the archetypal anima, the inner feminine, the wellspring of intuition and creativity. And the water? That was the vitality of the self waiting to be uncovered. Ask yourself, what inner figures guide you when you stop trying to command your life? Which archetype steps forward when you finally let go of control? It may be the sage offering quiet insight. It may be the warrior urging you to act. It may even be the trickster, that mischievous force which tears apart your well-made plans only to reveal a deeper truth. The trickster is often misunderstood. It brings chaos not to harm you, but to free you. Many times in my life, I encountered the trickster archetype in the form of unexpected disruptions, illness, disagreements, broken routines. At first, I resisted, believing these events interrupted my work. But later, I understood that such disturbances were the psyche's way of shifting my direction when I had become too rigid, too certain, too controlled. Sometimes the unconscious breaks the pattern to save the person. Have you ever noticed how certain events repeat themselves? Perhaps a recurring conflict, a type of relationship that always fails, a dream that visits you again and again. These repetitions are not accidents. They are psychic messages, patterns woven from the fabric of the unconscious. When control collapses, the pattern reveals itself. Ask yourself, gently, what pattern in my life repeats with strange persistence? What lesson have I refused to learn that the unconscious keeps placing before me? To discover this is to touch a deeper form of strength, the strength of recognition. Many believe strength is endurance. Some believe it is force. But I tell you now, true strength is the courage to face one's own psyche without armor. When you meet your shadow, when you recognize your archetypes, when you surrender the rigid persona and allow your inner world to breathe, you awaken a power far greater than anything the ego can fabricate. You awaken the self. The self is not the best version of you, nor is it a perfected ideal. It is the totality of who you are. Your contradictions, your wounds, your gifts, your darkness, and your light. It is the center of your psychic gravity. When you move toward it, you become whole. When you move away from it, you become divided. To approach the self is to step into the mystery of your own being. I remember a dream from my younger years, one that taught me more than any book or lecture. I stood at the edge of a great circular well. The water shimmered in the moonlight, and I felt an overwhelming urge to look deeper. As I leaned over the stone rim, my reflection appeared. But it was not me, as I knew myself. It was an older man, wise, serene, with eyes that seemed to hold centuries. He raised his hand as though inviting me to follow him into the depths of the well. When I awoke, I understood that the dream pointed to the archetype of the wise old man, the guiding presence of the self. It asked me to descend, to go deeper than thought, deeper than intellect, deeper even than emotion, into the core of my being. And so I ask you now, what image of yourself waits in the depths of your inner well? Do you have the courage to look? This question is not meant to frighten you, but to free you. Where control ends, fear loses its throne. Where fear dissolves, the self emerges. Understand this. The unconscious does not ask you to abandon reason. It asks you to expand beyond it, to incorporate all the dimensions of your being: instinct, intuition, feeling, imagination, symbol, dream. These are not enemies of the rational mind. They are its ancient companions. When you welcome them, you cease to live as a fragment. You begin to live as a whole. You walk into your own life with a depth of presence that no amount of control could ever grant you. You speak not from fear, but from truth. You act not from compulsion, but from alignment. You meet others not with performance, but with authenticity. This is strength, soft yet unshakable, yielding yet fierce, fluid yet deeply rooted. It grows not from controlling the world, but from understanding yourself. Let us continue this descent a little further into the realm where inner work becomes practice, where the symbolic becomes the lived. For insight is only the beginning. Transformation begins with action. You have walked with me through symbols, shadows, and the deep architecture of the soul. But a journey inward cannot end with insight alone. What is seen must be lived, and what is understood must be practiced. So now I offer you several forms of inner work, not as rigid instructions, but as invitations. Take what resonates. Leave what does not yet speak to you. For transformation begins not with force, but with willingness. 1. A daily dialogue with the shadow. Find a quiet moment each day and ask yourself 3 simple questions. What emotion did I try to control today? What part of myself did I hide from others? What reaction surprised me or frightened me? Write your answers without judgment. The shadow speaks softly at first. It reveals itself through discomfort, through subtle impulses, through sudden irritation or unexpected attraction. When you listen, it begins to trust you, and when it trusts you, it transforms. Do not try to fix the shadow. Simply allow it to exist as an honest part of you. This alone is powerful. 2. Dream work. The unconscious speaks at night. Each morning, before the noise of the world intrudes, record whatever fragments of dreams remain. A symbol, a color, a feeling. These are seeds. Ask yourself, what emotion from the dream lingers in me now? What inner figure appeared, and what might it want? What conflict or tension did the dream reveal that I ignore during the day? Dreams are not puzzles to be solved. They are messages in symbolic language. They tell you not what to think, but what you feel beneath the layers of control. Sit with the images. Do not force meaning. Let the meaning rise naturally as mist lifts from water. 3. The practice of inner surrender. Once each day, for 5 or 10 minutes, allow the psyche to move without direction. Close your eyes. Relax the mind. Let images surface, not summoned, but invited. Perhaps you see a landscape, or meet a figure, or hear a phrase. This is active imagination, a dialogue between the conscious mind and the unconscious. If fear arises, breathe gently. You are only meeting yourself. Record what emerges. Over time, a pattern will reveal itself, a thread woven by the self to lead you toward wholeness. 4. Journal prompts for integration. Here are questions to explore whenever you feel ready. What aspect of myself do I pretend does not exist? Where in my life do I cling most tightly to control? Why? What do I fear will happen if I let go? Who would I become if I allowed my contradictions to coexist? What unlived life calls to me from the depths? Write freely. Write honestly. Do not write what you should feel. Write what you actually feel. Truth is the beginning of strength. 5. A ritual for letting go of control. Choose one area of your life where you feel the greatest tension. A relationship, a decision, a self-expectation. Ask yourself, what am I trying to force? What would happen if I stopped forcing it? What arises in the space where control once stood? Then, for a single day, practice non-interference. Let the situation unfold without your manipulation. Observe what the psyche does when you do not block its movement. Sometimes letting go reveals what control was hiding. Sometimes letting go reveals what control was protecting. Both are forms of truth, and truth, even when unsettling, is liberation. As our time together comes to its quiet close, I invite you to sit for a moment in the stillness we have created. You have journeyed from the familiar shores of the ego into the shifting landscapes of the unconscious, through shadowed forests, symbolic deserts, and wells of deep reflection. And now you stand at the threshold of something profound. Where control ends, a gate opens, a gate into the vastness of your inner world. Most people fear that vastness. They fear becoming lost. But what they do not realize is that the psyche itself provides the compass. Your dreams whisper direction. Your emotions signal truth. Your symbols shine like lanterns along the path. You are not navigating darkness. You are navigating depth. And depth is not an enemy. Depth is home. Remember this. The shadow you once feared is not a beast to be slain, but a forgotten companion who carries part of your strength. The archetypes you encounter are not fantasies, but ancient guides who walk with you as you shape your destiny. And the self, that quiet, luminous center, does not demand your perfection, only your presence. Let me leave you with a final image. Imagine a tree standing alone upon a windswept hill. Its branches twist toward the sky, its roots reach deep into unseen soil. When storms come, the branches sway and shudder. But the tree does not break. Why? Because its strength does not lie in resisting the wind, but in yielding to it. Its stability comes not from rigidity, but from depth. You are that tree. Your roots are your unconscious. Your dreams, your symbols, your instincts, your forgotten stories. Your branches are your conscious life. The choices you make, the relationships you cultivate, the world you create. When control dominates, your branches stiffen, your roots weaken. But when you allow the psyche to breathe, when you let go, even just a little, your roots deepen, and your branches grow freer. This is real strength. Not domination, not certainty, not perfection, but wholeness. Let the winds of life pass through you. Let your depths nourish you. Let the shadow teach you. Let the archetypes guide you. Let the self unfold within you like a hidden sun rising. And whenever you feel lost, whenever fear tightens its grip, return to this truth. Where control ends, your real strength begins. Walk gently, my friend. Walk honestly. Walk inward. For the greatest journey you will ever take is the journey into your own soul. I will meet you there.